Full panel here with me now. Marc Short, former Legislative Affairs Director in the first Trump administration, Chief of Staff as well to the Vice President Mike Pence. Taryn Rosenkrantz is a Democratic strategist. Aaron McGuire, Republican strategist. And Scott Bolden, NewsNation political contributor. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. Nice to have you. That was the furthest that Trump's gone on Vance. What'd you take away from those comments?
I took away what I think everybody should expect from the president, which is no full-throated endorsement of anybody as the heir apparent to MAGA. One, the president sees himself, and he is MAGA. That comes from him. That is his movement. It is about who will be able to shepherd those voters and keep them engaged going into the 28 cycle. It's about who he thinks will be able to keep that moving. It's tough to tell right now. Midterms will actually probably play a bigger part in figuring out who might be the 28 successor for him than anything else.
Rubio said, Mark, I think J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. He went on to say he's a close friend, and I hope he intends to do it. And that was the backdrop for that question there today.
My experience is the president does not set up his vice presidents for succession very well.
Only one has ever done it, become president.
Do you have any personal experience?
I said my experience is, and I think this is way too early to be talking about this because Aaron said there's going to be a lot of controversies over the next 3+ years. And, and yeah, I think the president is MAGA. I don't think there really is a successor to MAGA. And I'm not confident he wants a successor to MAGA. And so, because then it somehow devalues what he's been. So I think there's a long time between now and then.
I should note favorability ratings. Recent poll, J.D. Vance among Republicans, 86%. Donald Trump, 86%. So he's up there as well.
One other thing to note about this is the moment Trump actually starts really talking about what's going to happen in 28, he puts himself in that lame duck category. This is not a president who has wanted to do that at all. So I would see him tiptoeing very carefully.
Hold on, I'm going to get to you too in a second, but I'm just curious on what you saw there out of Mike Flood, because whoever is the next Republican is going to have to defend the one big, beautiful bill. Some might want to, some might not want to.
This shouldn't be hard. The reality is that Democrats voted to increase taxes on working families. They refused to support funding for our border. They refused to support funding for our military. This really shouldn't be hard. I think the challenge that he's running into is that there's a lot of other controversies that Donald Trump brings into the equation. At that town hall, there are a lot of Jeffrey Epstein questions. There are a lot of questions about trade agenda, particularly in Nebraska, an exporting agricultural state. There was a lot of stuff that was brought into that debate.
So when that is what gets thrown your way, well, that's going to be the debate back and forth.
Well, of course, and there's a lot in that bill that the Republicans can argue for vis-a-vis lower taxes, but there's a lot of bad stuff in that bill that's going to affect working-class people, the core of MAGA, including millions of people being taken off Medicaid and health care, which is a really strong point for Democrats to be making, regardless of whatever the Republicans say about taxes on tips and so forth and so on.
But it's really about the juxtaposition between a ballroom expansion that's spending billions of dollars and people losing health care. People are going to die because they don't have health care. Hospitals are going to lose resources.
That's a bit verbose.
No, it's not, though.
It's
not, because hospitals lose research.
You lose yourself.
Research. That's the choice we made. That is the choice he made. A ballroom, cancer research.
Privately funded ballroom.
No,
by the president,
at the end of the day, a White House expansion, we didn't have money for this.
Well, we're not spending money on it.
You made your priorities quite clear.
And how did y'all defend when Bill Clinton pushed for work requirements?
You know what? You want to talk about 1992? Let's go for it.
Or Barack Obama.
But that's not where we're at right now.
Supported work
You want to talk about Barack Obama? I think the whole country would talk about health care.
So
let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Part of the backdrop here, and we've focused a lot on Republicans. How do you defend this? On a summit in Mexico City, Delia Ramirez, Congresswoman, Illinois, I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American.
Well, you know what? I don't think anyone I think we do not want to say that the Democratic Party should be saying that we're going to have to defend one person, one action, one voice. And I don't think that that's something that we should have to do. If you want to say that, I think we can say, look, she's saying that. That's her words, and I don't think that that's the party. And I don't think right now that is the party. Well, I don't think that's what we have to be doing.
But all of us in this country are from somewhere else.
That's why we're a proud nation of immigrants.
You're Mexican-American.
You are what you are. Right.
You are who you are. And if you don't like the rhetoric, so be it. But if she feels
that's
that
what
way,
I'm saying.
I'm an African-American. I'm not going to stop saying that.
Oh, listen, I'm as American as the day is long. Both my parents are American, my grandparents are American, my great-grandparents are American.
But that's what I'm saying.
But as an elected member of Congress, Your job is to represent the constituents of the United States. And if you're standing there saying that you're proud to be from somewhere else than you are for the country you represent at that point, yes, that is a political point Republicans can make. And real quick, on the Mike Flood town hall, in that, he said, if a 28-year-old is able to work and chooses not to do so, should they receive Medicaid benefits? And that crowd said yes. That's lunacy banana nuts. And if that's what Democrats decide is their message,
well, you
for
also said people are going to die, too.
Here's what I want to end on this.
It actually happened. It is true. Democrats not true. It was in the Hill report.
People are going to die.
Here's where I want to end.
Yes.
Sought Flood on Epstein. Roll that real quick.
Why are you covering up the Epstein files?
At the next pro forma session of the Congress, you'll find my name as a sponsor on a resolution from the House Rules Committee to release the Epstein files to protect the victims. I am for the release of those records.
I'm gonna end with you here because you brought it up. How much does that follow?
Oh, I think it follows. I think the challenge for the Trump administration is they lit this flame, and they're not going to be able to just extinguish it by hiding it. I think you're going to have more and more members, just like he said, signing on to these petitions to force the Speaker's hand and having a vote.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there.
What's in the files?
Spirited. Thank you all. Appreciate it.